Welcome everybody to another Motocross Action video. Today we are testing the 2023.5 GASGAS MC250F Factory Edition model. This is the only Factory Edition 250 for the KTM group this year. KTM and Husqvarna, as you guys know, they got the all-new chassis and platform in 23. For GASGAS, they are 1 year behind. So GASGAS for 2024 is going to be all new. So this Factory Edition is a preview of what's to come on next year's stock GASGAS 250F, but it also has some aftermarket accessory upgrades like the triple clamps, like the wheels, and like the Akrapovic muffler. So we're going to dive into all the details that we know about this GASGAS MC250F. We're riding in the hills. We got snow in the mountains behind us, great dirt here in Southern California because we've had a lot of rain this year. So we got Connor Stiers behind the bars today, and I'm going to be riding it after him to test this bike and give you guys all we know about the GASGAS MC250F Factory Edition in this video. All right, everybody, so this is the only Factory Edition 250 from the Austrian bikes for the 2023.5 season. GASGAS is all new. This is completely different than the 2023 GASGAS model. It jumps up on par now with the Husqvarna and KTM 2023 250F bikes. So as you could tell last year, watching the 2022 Supercross season, RJ Hampshire and Max Volan, the KTM and Husky Supercross riders for factory teams, they jumped up last year with the Factory Edition 2022 KTM and Husky bikes. Now, a year later, GASGAS is on the same program and they're jumping up to that same platform. So this bike has the all-new frame, the all-new engine, subframe, swing arm, shock, all the same things that come on the KTM and Husqvarna models, and now it jumps up with them. It also comes with a large host of aftermarket upgrades that you get whenever you buy a Factory Edition from KTM, Husky, or GASGAS. It comes with a map switch, where GASGAS normally doesn't come with a map switch. It comes with CNC machined factory power parts triple clamps, where GASGAS normally comes with the forged aluminum triple clamps. It comes with factory power parts wheels. It also has the front brake that is a full floating front brake disc. It also has a front brake rotor cover. It has a skid plate. It has an Akrapovic muffler on it with the KTM header with the resonance chamber. The difference between this header pipe and the stock GASGAS one, this one looks like a two-stroke pipe where it has a big resonance chamber that blows up in the middle, where the stock GASGAS is kind of more of a straight pipe, no resonance chamber, a little less power, a little less torque coming out of the corners. Akrapovic muffler, something we give 2 thumbs up to. These things last forever. They sound really quiet, smooth, and just offer a nice broad power band that we definitely appreciate. The GASGAS MC250F also has all new bodywork to go with that updated frame, and it has an aluminum subframe, which is actually different than what you find on the KTM and Husqvarna bikes. That's pretty interesting. It's different because of the different mounting points that you have with the GASGAS plastics. Also because GASGAS, they wanted to do something to differentiate their bikes just a little bit more from KTM and Husky. The KTM Husky has aluminum and a carbon composite plastic mixture to make the subframe. This one is more aluminum with the plastic surrounding it for that air box. Other note, the air box is a little bit different how air enters the engine on this bike. It's got a lip on the front, so you can't stick your hand all the way through underneath the bike like you can with a KTM, and it's not completely closed off like the Husqvarna is. It has a block right there when you stick your hand in there, but then if you put your hand down, you can feel where the air goes to get into that GASGAS MC250F engine. Taking the airbox cover off the side number panel, that thing is a massive number panel on the left hand side of the bike, and it extends all the way into the shroud of the bike. So it takes a couple tries to learn how to take it on and off properly, but once you get it, it's fairly simple. To get the seat off, you actually have to take that same cover off, and then you got an 8mm bolt, just one, to slide it off backwards. Also, to go with the new GASGAS bodywork, you have a red cover around the fuel tank. It's kind of weird looking. I've seen it on my brother's bike. I've seen it on Justin Barsh's bike. But what it is that Troy Lee, he wanted a red fuel tank for this factory edition bike to go with the Troy Lee designs and Red Bull logos on the plastics, and just to make it look a little more exotic. KTM group, they said, hey, we can't make you red fuel tanks, but we can give you black ones and put a red cover on it. So it's kind of interesting, makes the bike look pretty unique, and also makes it a little more tricky to get the seat on and off, but I tried it a couple times, it's not too bad. Another part that doesn't come stock on GASGAS, this bike comes with an hour meter, so that's another thing you get that you wouldn't get next year when you buy this 2024 GASGAS MC250F. It also comes with a WP holeshot device, so it comes straight from the factory, ready to go racing. You got a gripper seat cover from GASGAS, you get a holeshot device, you got some nice Dunlop MX33 tires. Overall, this bike is pretty ready to hit the track right away. Talking about the suspension settings, those are also ready to hit the track and go racing for a intermediate level rider, because these are the KTM settings that come off of the KTM 250F. They are not softer. So traditionally, GASGAS makes their suspension softer and makes it a little more plush, better for novice riders, better for lighter riders, and just a little bit different handling from the KTM, because they're trying to make the bikes a little different. For the factory edition models, they're only producing about 400 units of this bike. Because they're only doing a limited amount of units, they're just copying the KTM suspension from the KTM 250, so it is a little bit stiffer than what you will find if you buy this bike in the 2024 edition year. So looking back at the 2022 season, RJ Hampshire, Max Voland, all of the Rockstar Husky and the Red Bull KTM 250 riders really struggled on this new platform. It was pretty widely known that even Cooper Webb struggled on the brand new KTM last year. Lots of people pointing the finger at him at why he wasn't able to back up his championship, and he didn't even get a win last year in 2022. It took him a while to get used to this new chassis and the new engine that come on KTM and Husqvarna and GASGAS now as well. My brother and Justin Barsha last year for the 2022 season, they were riding the previous generation bike that was completely different frame. They were riding something completely different than what Cooper Webb had, than what RJ Hampshire had. So a lot less bike issues for them last year, a lot less testing for them last year, because they were on the same program that they had been on for multiple years. Now for 23, Justin Barsha, my brother, Pierce Brown, they've all jumped onto the new platform for this season, and it's been a learning experience for all of them. Justin Barsha, we can see he's doing exceptionally well. This frame is a little bit stiffer, it's a little more balanced, it rides a little bit taller in the rear end, and Justin Barsha has talked about how that's helped him, and now he's battling for podiums and landing on the podium multiple times, but it's still a learning experience for those guys as they get adapted to this new bike and continue to figure it out. With all that being said, we've found that the sweet mark for these bikes, for the 450 and 250, is the 10-hour mark. That is when the new frame is broken in. That's when the air forks are completely broken in and the bike starts to handle like we want it to. Going off of how the KTM and Husqvarna have felt, especially the 450 models, those definitely take 10 hours. The 250, because it's a little lighter weight, because a little less rotating mass, it's not as fast. The 10-hour mark maybe isn't as necessary. You can kind of get away with breaking it in 3, 4, and 5 hours, but definitely the more time you get on this steel frame for GASGAS, the better the bike will get, as it'll be a little more compliant and absorb the bumps a little bit better, rather than deflecting on them like it does when you buy this bike and go straight to the track. As for the engine, this does have that all-new KTM Husky engine that they got last year, so updated bike, a little bit stronger on the bottom end, a little more torque coming out of the corners, and it's something that we're definitely impressed with and like. This GASGAS MC250F engine also comes with the map switch like I mentioned. Your stock 23 and next year's 24 GASGASs won't come with a map switch, but they have the same ECU as KTM, so those maps are still stuck in there. You just have to pay the $150 and slap it onto your bike, so you can have access to those maps. So map 1 today was a little more mellow, standard map. Map 2 definitely more exciting off the bottom end, something that I prefer. I ride 450s quite a bit, so when I hop on a 250, I want as much power as I can get. Clicking it into traction control mode, this thing definitely detunes a lot in traction control and makes it a lot easier when you're riding slick and skatey tracks to keep straight coming out of the corners. But because it's a 254 stroke and because it's definitely not as fast as a 450, most riders aren't going to want to use that traction control mode unless you're extremely light or you're riding on a super slick track. Most of us are more comfortable monitoring the rear wheel traction with your right hand and with the throttle. As for the suspension and the chassis of this bike, it definitely rides a little bit taller in the rear end than last year's GASGAS did. I do like the balance a lot on these bikes because they rotated the engine backwards. They dropped the countershaft sprocket just a little bit to reduce chain torque and reduce squatting coming out of the corner. So definitely a balanced chassis. Also the forged gussets on the front of the frame make the frame a little bit stiffer, but also they reduce pitching and overall just make this bike handle well, handles with a lot less pitching front to rear. And because of those stiffer suspension settings as well, it's a very balanced bike and something that you can be comfortable on and have a good time with. So it does come with the WP Exact air forks. The key to these air forks is to keep an eye on them, to continue to check your air pressure throughout the day, especially if it's hot outside or if you're doing super long motos. Always bleed your forks. Even if you're using spring forks, you need to bleed the air pressure out of the top. Keep an eye on the air pressure. If it's a hot day and you have an easy up, make sure that at least the front of your bike is under the shade to keep it out of the sun all day so that you won't have to change your air forks pressure as often. But air forks kind of work like air tires and inner tubes. You need to check your tire pressure if it's hot out, and the same thing for your air forks. One other note about this bike, I was asking the GASGAS technicians about the plastic radiator cap that comes stock now on all the Austrian bikes. Unfortunately, they said that they added it because Marvin Musquin actually kicked off his old radiator cap on his Red Bull KTM 450, so they put it on there as a safety item. However, it's really frustrating to try to get it on and off. It's not very easy. The standard radiator caps that used to come on these bikes set the standard for our industry. Unfortunately, I think they took a step backward by adding these plastic ones on there, but you can even look at the factory teams. They don't run these plastic caps. They put the traditional ones back on there, but still, that's the reason why we have plastic covers on here. I believe Nihilo Concepts makes an aftermarket one to go back to the standard metal radiator cap, so that's definitely something you should look into for longevity and just for ease of use to check your coolant height inside of your GASGAS MC250F. So this GASGAS MC250F is basically just a red KTM. It's got a few minor differences. We wish the suspension was softer. We wish they would have done a few things differently, but that will have to look forward to 2024 when they go back to the traditional GASGAS platform without that resonance chamber, with softer suspension, with different triple clamps. That bike is a little bit more different, but when it comes to the factory edition, this is very similar to a KTM. So has some exotic bodywork that I do appreciate. I do like the cherry red frame, but overall you could probably hear that I'm a little bit bummed that they didn't make this bike more different than the other models, but it's the factory edition bike. They wanted to put all the best parts that they knew they had on there, and that's what you'll be able to get if you pick this bike up at the dealership. So hope you guys enjoyed this Motocross Action video. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell button so you can get notified whenever we release new videos. Also, subscribe to Motocross Action Magazine, $25 for the year, and we will send you a $25 e-gift card to Rocky Mountain ATV MC Online. So it basically is like a wash, really no money out of your pocket, and you get some parts out of the deal as well. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.